Now you can hear me. My bad. I was muted for a little bit. They probably want me muted, but once again, it's game time snitches. Welcome to the All Nicked Up podcast. I'm your host, Ty, head of Nick Security tonight. Our boy Eric will not be with us tonight. He's taking a little flight down to KY country, visit John Calipari. Let's do a little bit of a recap here. We're coming off a win on the Brooklyn Nets, over the Brooklyn Nets. The Knicks won that game 108-103. They are now 20-1 on the season versus teams sub 500, which is a great record for our Knicks. The Knicks are now 10-2 over the last 12 games, and we're sitting firmly in fifth place right now in the Eastern Conference, which I don't think no one probably would picture that early in the season, but the Knicks are once again a consistent winning team, and that's something beautiful to see in New York for us fans who've literally been on starvation for over 30 years. But once again, I'd like to bring in my co-host, the dude from upstate, never late. You know him, that's Upstate Joe. Let me bring in Upstate Joe. Welcome to the show, my brother. How's it going?
What's going on, man? Doing well.
That's good, that's good. How's the upstate life?
Upstate's nice.
Nice.
Downstaters don't know.
What's that you said?
You downstaters don't know.
Yeah, we don't know about
It's
that.
nice.
Yeah. We just got a bunch of cursing down here in traffic. That's all we got.
And high real estate prices and high taxes and high cost of
High blood
living.
pressure.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of everything down here that'll kill you dead quick. That's for damn sure. Well, I guess the one thing we could say is not killing us the New York Knicks right now. They're playing pretty damn good. We've got a little bit of a winning culture going on. We just came fresh off of beating the Crooklyn Nets, as we like to call them. I don't know if you had a chance to catch the game last night, but once again, we had a great showing from Jalen Brunson as well as Julius Randle. Albeit a very ugly game. I didn't like the game. I thought the game was very choppy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather us blow out teams sometimes instead of getting in these.
It wasn't enjoyable looking basketball. It wasn't pretty.
No. I called it Ugly Wanda in the recap, right? I think that's what
I did read that.
You can complete Ugly Wanda in that situation. But, nevertheless, a win is a win. I mean, who's going to complain about something like that? Anytime you can put a thumb over Brooklyn, who's mad at that? But I was saying earlier in my recap earlier this morning that, people picture this as a rivalry, but it's really not been the rivalry. It's more or less whatever team has had the most superior talent has basically owned the series. And right now we're looking at a New York Knicks team that is the most talented team, obviously, in New York. I've always felt like this was more of a media-generated, Brooklyn net-generated rivalry in which they want to be relevant, and they know they live in the blue and orange skies of New York. This is Knick World. It's never not been Knick World. Brooklyn just learned. Mikal Bridges, go get your damn tissues because you were crying later about how they're not hearing or cheering for you. Well, when you're in somebody else's backyard, you can't barbecue. That's really what it comes down to. You got to ask permission. And right now, the Brooklyn Nets are irrelevant, as they've always been irrelevant to us. So I always call them the New York Jets. That's what I call them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, what were your thoughts on the game from last night? Anything stood out for you or impressed you?
I thought it was ugly basketball, but again, a win is a win and is a win. And you talk about winning basketball and nobody's seeing that. They're on pace to win my 50 win projection. I just want to kind of throw that out there.
You should. Pat yourself on the back there, bro, because you were the one talking about it. So walk your dog.
They are kind of at that pace right now. And again, what is it, 19-0 against teams with losing records?
Well, I think it's actually I learned I had to edit my my recap today. It's 20-1, I believe, which is still, I mean, nobody's sneezing in a tissue crying over that either. That's pretty damn good.
No, definitely. But I thought that, again, you're walking out with a win. I think there is the aspect of being so heavily dependent on two scorers that is concerning to me. Mm-hmm. If I were to look at something that's kind of crawling up the back of my head, at night, kind of troubling me. But damn, it's been a great season of watching basketball. I mean, really, I mean, for some of the seasons we've sat through and,
Mm-hmm.
just bitched about. I mean,
Ghastly is a good
it's
word.
nice. It's nice seeing winning basketball. It really is. And, I thought that your take on the game that you put on the fan post, the fan page, the recap was very insightful about the relationship between these two teams.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not really a rivalry because we've never been at peak powers at the same time battling each other out in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Jason Kidd Nets,
Yeah.
the Carmelo Anthony Knicks,
Yeah.
the Kevin Durant Nets, and now this version of the Knicks right now, and never shall the twain meet. And, but what we are winning is the fans. We win that. If the Knicks win 18 games, we win the fan game. It's just the passion for the team is so much stronger than the Knicks. And you talk about the Nets when the Russian came in, talking about when he was going to steal the city from the Knicks. I was like, yeah, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with that. Those roots run deep. You are not pulling out that tree.
Yeah.
But again, it's fun. I always remember kind of Richard Jefferson kind of talking crap about us when they were beating us and stuff like that. So I always enjoy seeing us beat that team and kind of firmly having a stranglehold over the city with that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more with that because, we watched the bravado and the chest poking out of scrubs on the Nets like Richard Jefferson, who's kind of always held a little over the head of the Knicks to say, ling, 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 you guys are terrible, and we've got one over on you. And now the Knicks fans have a team to support. The quality on the floor is matching the passion of the fans for once, and that's a beautiful thing in New York. I mean, that's all we ever asked was to have some competent play on the floor and have a reason to show up and a reason to wear your Knicks paraphernalia and all that stuff. Because hey, let me tell you, you go in the store, you kind of look for it now. So you don't feel like you got to wear a mask to go buy a piece of Knick memorabilia now. So I was just everywhere I go, anytime I wear a Knick hat, there's always somebody who was probably in hiding for most of the time that they were Knick fans also, and they're like, oh, I can spot one. Go Knicks, So now that's kind of the fervor you got with New York fans. Like we're out and about. We're out there heavy in the arenas and the streets, and there's nothing like winning basketball in New York. No. That's why I never understood why you never saw like a major star try to trek their way here. But New York is built on a lot of hard workers. We saw that during Jeremy Lin. We saw it during the Steve Novaks. These guys coming off basically the garbage pile and coming into New York, lighting it up, getting extended contracts, and becoming famous. And immortalized fame, actually, when you look at it. A guy like Jeremy Lin, would we be talking about him if he was not in New York? And the answer is no, and this city can make you in a beautiful way if you're willing to put in the work and the effort, and the fans will support it. They will definitely support it.
Something that I do miss is that feeling when New York is winning in New York.
Yes.
Like, I lived 19 blocks away from the Garden for a number of years, and the pulse in the city when the Knicks were winning and everything like that was unbelievable. Like, New York is a basketball town. It really is. You have the Yankees, yes, the Giants and the Jets, even though they play in Jersey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Rangers. I don't think any team galvanizes New York like the Knicks do when the Knicks are winning. And I miss that being upstate, man, because, it's not that kind of same thing. It's the Bills, it's the Sabres. But I did run into a fellow Knicks fan the other day at the Rochester Market. I was buying vegetables and stuff, and he was like, he saw my thing, and we connected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great when it's great in the city when the team's winning.
Yeah, there's I'm a Yankee fan, and yes, the Yankees in the Bronx, it's a very passionate fan base as well. When they're winning, but they've gotten used to winning. As a Yankee fan, you're used to winning, and you have a hell of a resume to fall back on, even when you're losing. But there's nothing like the Garden rocking when basketball is relevant in New York. It's the reason why you hear so many of the non-Knick players. They love coming into the Garden because the fans get it. The fans get behind their team. When we watch, the bubble movement in New York, and the fan base came back, and it was a tsunami. Mm-hmm. The fan base is a tsunami when they get revved up, and one win in the playoffs just had the city electric. And I don't know of any other sports franchise this is no bias. If there was, I would say it. But the fervor that we get as far as when we are relevant, just a little bit of a win or the competitiveness that we can see and put a product on the floor, we will claim everyone to be the best player on the Knicks when we're good. Everybody can beat everybody because, we got Jalen Brunson. You'll hear us mouth off and defend our players as far as that. So hence why my name is head of Knicks security tonight. We'll get back into that a little bit more about what I mean by that. But, speaking of the Garden, I wanted to touch on this a little bit. We're going a little bit backwards. But, we had the return of the neophytes. Yeah. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly made their return back to Madison Square Garden, a place they called home for 5+ years for some of them, 4 and 5 years, I should say. Just a little brief recap. Unless you're under a rock, those two were traded for OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa. Obviously, Knick fan favorites. Some are. Everybody seemed to love Emmanuel. RJ, we don't know. You know how that is. I love you, RJ. You was a good dude as far as I'm concerned. But we watched them come back to a lot of fanfare. They had this roaring ovation during the starting lineup, and they had their flowers given to them after the game concluded by their former players speaking very highly about them. The fan base loves them. We wish them nothing but all the best, obviously. Once a Knick, always a Knick. I think we all feel that way, unless it's Jerome James and Joakim Noah. That's about the only two that we don't kind of recognize, I guess, in New York. But generally, and probably can't walk around and get a hot dog inside the Garden either too well. But, nonetheless, these are guys that I'm more than sure at some point Knick fans would love to have back at some point, towards the end of their career or the middle of their career in return. I think they'd be welcome with open arms. But we are winning. That's one of the things. But, the one thing I was going to touch on something regarding this. I was going to say, being that the trade has happened and we have a time to reflect back on it, we watched Emmanuel Quickly, perform on the floor. We watched RJ Barrett perform on the floor. Was there anything that you saw in their games that made you wish that they were back? After they've been in Toronto for, it's a little short stand now. I think it's about a couple of weeks they've been in Toronto. But was there a time while you were watching the game that you go, man, we could use that back right now? Or, man, I can imagine if RJ was on this team, was there any reflection? Did you go into with Doc Brown and went back to the future and said, well, maybe we could have kept so-and-so and added them and not, sent them packing? Was there any moment you felt like that while watching the game?
I don't think that was in my calculus at all. And it's not an indictment of either player. I like RJ. I wish him all the best in the world. I like Quick. I wish him all the best in the world. I think if I was going to say something, I miss Quickly scoring off the bench. Yeah. And I think that's something that needs to be replaced. Yeah. I think there's another priority bigger than that, but we'll probably get into that later. Mm-hmm. But I look at that roster right now, and I see them performing well. I see RJ performing well, but I see a team without an identity and perhaps some of the problems that RJ experienced here. Mm-hmm. I think they're accumulating talent, but the roster doesn't necessarily make sense. It makes more sense with Pascal Siakam gone.
Yeah.
But I think the issues with Julius and RJ, which is probably accentuated because they were both left-handed, there may be a bit of a fit issue with Scotty Barnes too. Mm-hmm. I think
I agree.
they both like to operate in the same area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to figure that out, and they're going to have to figure out touches out because RJ's also come in and gotten a lot of touches from the outside. And it's kind of Scotty's team. So they have a lot to figure out as far as fit goes.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish the best for them. But I was a big proponent of the trade. And I know that I was breaking Eric's chops that entire meeting about RJ and stuff like that. But I think that he's a good player. I think he needed a change of scenery. I don't think he was going to succeed here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when the choice had to come down between him and Randall, I think it needed to be Randall. That's just how I see things differently than Eric. He believes the choice should have been RJ in that situation. At least I think he does. But it's always going to be difficult watching people succeed after you let them go. If RJ turns into the player that he's capable of being, it's going to cross your mind and stuff like that. But I still will say I believe we did the right thing for the roster. I think we're a better team. I think we're a team that makes more sense. I think we were a team that maybe Toronto is now, and that's one with a roster that doesn't make a lot of sense yet.
Yeah.
They have to kind of mold and shape that, and I believe they will. They have an excellent GM.
Mm-hmm.
But I think our roster makes more sense now. I'm not looking back wistfully, wishing that we had them back. I believe both players needed to be moved on from.
Gotcha. Well, I think it's kind of hard to argue when you look at the record, since they've been gone. We're watching, no matter what limitation OG Anunoby might have in theory offensively, we are watching the Knicks still beat the hell out of a bunch of teams right now, with his presence on the floor. We're learning about his plus minus, as far as with defense. The Knicks are top notch. They went from being
he's a plus minus all-star.
Yeah. So, when you look and reflect back, no matter how much your fandom might have been for RJ or for Quickly, I've always been a person that I said I cheer for the front of the uniform. I don't cheer for the back. I don't care whose name is on it. That never bothered me one damn bit. Can you win? As I've made it be known, I said I will sub my mom out of the game. Sorry, Mom, I'm going to give you a card and give you a hug, but if you're blowing layups, you might have to go sit the bench because, to me, winning is winning. Nobody wants to be grinning. It's all about winning. I know Clark says that winning and grinning. I want to win. So, I don't have a problem ever letting go of any player as long as it's not a lateral movement, but more of an uptick.
Yeah.
When looking at OG, he's starting to get a little bit of more better footing with his offense. We're starting to see a little glimpse of him trying to attack off the bounce. That is definitely something he will have to address in the offseason. But he has an avenue and a line in which he drives right to the basket. He's finishing at the basket. These are things that I think when you reflect back on both RJ and Emmanuel Quickly, that was something they had a hard time. They could get in the lane, but the fluid finishes or the strong finishes were always a question mark. Clearly, the three-point shooting, I don't care if you loved Emmanuel Quickly. He was more of a volume shooter or a streak shooter, say. Whereas in RJ was an inconsistent shooter. Right now, you got a guy in OG Anunoby who's knocking down almost all of his open looks. It's been very impressive.
Which fits perfectly from what they want from him in the offense.
Yeah. And knowing that you have two guys that are probably not the greatest passers, never will be the greatest passers. And if you got a guy who's willing to actually camp out on the three-point line and do the dirty work, he's a classic kind of 3-and-D with a little uptick that, we may see more in his offensive bag. But that fits high usage players. When you got guys they're going to pet the rock a lot, in Brunson and Julius, and now you got a target that who's going to make you pay if you do double them. So it's hard to much love to RJ, and I wasn't the biggest Emmanuel Quickly fan, but when you wear the uniform, you've been drafted here, I got nothing but love for you. I'm going to support my team no matter if I don't like the player. I was not a Carmelo Anthony fan. I tell people that all the time. However, when he was in the Knick uniform, I was the biggest Carmelo Anthony fan because that's just how it goes, But
I think I didn't like the player. I liked the heart.
See, this is why we're hosting the podcast together. I could say simply for that reason. because when you look at it, I didn't mind Carmelo with regards to we knew what he was capable of,
Yeah.
but I didn't quite like all of the whatchamacallit. I just never thought he was going to play like the kind of winning basketball we required as far as with the Knicks.
I always believed that his primary directive was to score. And if he scored a bunch of points, it was a good game for him. I think whether or not the team necessarily won. I'd heard stories about him celebrating after a loss where he scored a certain amount of points. Like, I don't know if that's true or not,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. He was a wonderful single-dimensional player, but
Yeah.
you can't build a franchise around that and expect to win on a big level.
No, I absolutely agree. And one of the things I'd said when the trade happened with Carmelo, one of my issues was I said that you would need Chris Paul to be the point guard here because I don't know how you balance out both he and Stoudemire on the floor, two guys that kind of function in the same area of the floor. It makes it a little bit difficult to build around those two guys in particular. I would have probably went for Deron Williams. That's Darren Williams. That's who I probably would have went for in that trade. But, nevertheless, the Knicks have always nicked, and they've always had an issue with finding roster balance and putting the right pieces together and obtaining the right players. I think when looking now, OG was one of the better signings that we've had or better pickups. Same thing similar to when Brunson came on. Same thing even with Josh Hart, who albeit has struggled. We've seen how he has fit. When the Knicks do make these moves on the edges, these guys come in
for fit rather than talent acquisition.
Yep, exactly. And we're now seeing. I kind of trust when they make moves. That's one of the things I think before I could never say that about the Knicks. That we're making a move, we get all nervous and jittery because we're like, how's this guy going to fit? But apparently they figured out parts of the puzzle as far as putting the right pieces in play that are willing to come in, be underneath this coach, and actually produce. And we've seen the Derrick Rose trade, Josh Hart trade. Obviously, the Jalen Brunson acquisition, we've seen them make the right moves. Drafting may be the issue. We got to think about that a little bit. But as far as on the free agency and trading, they've done the right things on those edges.
It's funny. You hit the nail on the head. A lot of times historically with this team, and this if you're a longtime fan, like Ty and myself and Eric, it would make a trade for talent acquisition, and then you would need 3 other trades or 3 other moves to have that make sense with what you have. Because you just pulled somebody in that didn't make sense, that replicated something else that you were doing, i.e. Melo and Stoudemire, and now you got to figure out how to make the rest of the roster work. So, again, the OG Anunoby, the move, the Hart move, the Brunson move, these were factoring in the coach and fit with the team and fit with the culture, which was different than the beginning when you're drafting Obi Toppin and you're trading for Cam Reddish.
Yeah.
You have no place on here. So we're hoping that there is alignment with the front office and the coach right now, and that they share that vision because, again, both of those initial moves, they didn't fit with what the coach wanted to do. They didn't fit with the structure of the team. And you, for lack of a better term, pissed away that draft pick and whatever capital that you sent over for that trade because it was never going to work. Exactly. So it seems like they've learned their lesson. I still do question their ability to draft. I think Quickly was a good pick. I think 25 they took him at.
Yeah.
They seem to pick well in the second round. They can find usable players in the second round. But historically, we have just been terrible in the lottery. None worse than the Phil regime. We were horrible with the lottery then. But, this regime too is guilty of it. We really screwed up that lottery pick. We could have had Tyrese Halliburton. If you take this roster and stick Tyrese Halliburton on it, we're winning a chip. I'm sorry.
Whole different story.
Yeah. So, we're hoping that they learn the lessons.
Let's hope so, because we can jump into a little bit about about making moves. That's one of the key things about what we're looking at as far as with the Knicks overall. We're sitting in the 5th spot. I think the one thing that the Nets game really showed it was that we are lacking playmakers. That's one of the key things. I'm going to bring this one note up here that Eddie Dawson brought up about we need Murray from Atlanta. This is a lot of the talk we've been hearing about as far as, who do the Knicks go out and get? We've heard a couple of people. We'll talk about Murray at this point, and I got a few others that I need to bring up as far, about the fit. We saw last night the Knicks struggle. Hartenstein is probably our best playmaker. When you think about it, when he's out of the lineup, he's the one that gets a lot of the easy baskets. Well, get easier baskets for other people with the cuts. Knowing to pull actually the defense from out of the paint. When he moves up to like that high post area, I mean, that really opens up so many different avenues for the Knicks to be able to attack and go downhill. We've heard about Murray being available. We've heard the talk about it being Grimes and Fournier and a couple of picks. We've heard et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just wanted to actually, what are your thoughts on us going out and I know Craig, our hidden member, would literally implode if we can get DeJounte Murray in a Knicks uniform. But what are your thoughts on bringing in or going after a person like DeJounte Murray?
Okay. The most reasonable acquisition at this point that would really fit with this roster and probably improve us and be safe is Malcolm Brogdon from Portland. Going out and getting Malcolm Brogdon. Now, that makes the most sense right now. However, Eddie, I am with you. I have been tempted and I've talked in detail about my desire to bring DeJounte Murray to the Knicks. Now, that's not necessarily safe. That is really like a rolling the dice type of deal. And Eric talked about this, and the question is a fit. So we've seen the failed experiment with him and Trae Young in Atlanta, and I think that there are probably personality issues that could be involved in that. I think in a more mature locker room with a more mature backcourt partner, that could conceivably change. So there is risk that's attached to that not working out and giving up prime assets and also being attached to a contract that's going to last another 4 years. But damn it, the possibilities there are, you have to consider it, man. You have to consider it. If we can go Grimes and 2 firsts, I might even do 3 firsts, depending on what the firsts were.
Yeah.
Because what I referred to earlier about one of the big concerns that I have about this team is the absence of a third scorer. And I'm not talking about a bench scorer. I'm talking about a scorer. And being too dependent on Brunson or Randall, where if one of them goes down, you're up the creek, man, because you got no answers. You got nobody behind them that could step in and drop 25. No one on this roster is really set up to do that. So that becomes problematic if somebody rolls an ankle or you're in the playoffs and they roll. You need somebody to step up, and we don't have that player. DeJounte Murray could absolutely be that player. Absolutely be that player. He is a plus defender. He has led the league in steals before. He is a better point guard than Brunson is, flat out.
No, I agree with that.
Absolutely. He has improved from 3. He's hitting near 40% from free. I think 46% from the field. He's efficient. He could step up. I remember last season, I think he dropped like 37 on us. And I think in the Garden.
Oh, yeah. He has a nastiness about when he comes to the Garden on us.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, what I'm hearing about the asking price for him to acquire a player of that caliber that's signed to a reasonable contract for that price tag, it's hard to say no to that. So the safe bet is probably going for Malcolm Brogdon. I know Portland's willing to play ball. They want to acquire draft picks. They probably love the guy. He's a great locker room guy, great player, but they're going to move on to him if you can offer them probably a first-round pick and maybe Grimes.
Yeah, he's extremely probably obtainable at this point. Grimes would probably fit definitely the timeline going on in Portland, that's for sure. DeJounte, I actually watched his game last night. I don't watch a lot of other teams other than my New York Knicks, but I said, I know I was hosting today, so I said, let me, look at his game, kind of get a little feel for, I don't see a lot of Atlanta Hawk games, obviously, but, in watching this game, I was watching and, he's a little loose with the ball. That was one of my concerns a little bit with him. But I never questioned his competitive nature. That's my whole thing has always been talking about who's a dog. If you're a dog, I want you in the kennel in New York, because you're going to have guys with thick skin and guys that are willing to be highly competitive. And, they're just trying to win at all costs, and then watching him last night, they didn't win the game, but, it was really important to watch your demeanor and how you execute down the stretch. And he was, hold on. Yeah, it was against Sacramento, I think the game was. They were just bombing. He came out lit towards the fourth quarter and just started trying to bring his team back. And it was one timely shot after another timely shot after another timely shot. And then thinking about a guy like Brunson, he seems to kind of figure out where he fits in. He knows how to pull back, not wanting to be the main star. He knows when and when not to, as far as a star, I should say. When it's time for him to load up and try to score a lot versus him needing to take a back seat and allowing other guys to produce. I wouldn't be mad. DeJounte Murray, if you can get him for a couple of picks, and Grimes is last time I checked, Grimes wasn't doing anything but missing shots. So I don't see the reason to have heartstrings and say, oh, we can't get rid of him. If the talent, we need to always be in talent acquisition mode as a New York Knicks organization. I don't think we can afford to not get talent. And a guy like DeJounte Murray, although the fit may be a question mark, I don't think you can question who he is as a player in the NBA. The dude can ball. So, nothing wrong with that. Hold on, I'm trying to read some of the comments here. I don't know what that is. Okay, we'll get back to that. I'll try to read into what that is actually supposed to be. We got to get my little Da Vinci Code, watch here to figure out what's going on in some of these comments. But, we're talking about obviously bringing in players and who we can maybe obtain to help bolster this roster. And I'm going to move into this guy right here, which is, what can Brown do for you? Yes, that's a motto. We've heard Clyde actually say it. Well, the guy we're talking about is Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown recently got traded from the Indiana Pacers to the Toronto Raptors. All this deal happened, I guess, last week or 2 weeks ago. But we started reading about Bruce Brown actually, pinning his letter to Tom Thibodeau in his love notes.
Yeah.
So, come take me away from Toronto. I guess that could be a beautiful ballad. The Maple Leaf love, I don't know what it is. But when he asks whether or not he likes Tom Thibodeau, he says, oh, hell no, I don't just like him. I love the hell out of the guy. In fact, I hope he picks me up tomorrow. And we can go for coffee because he wants to clearly play for Tom Thibodeau. We know that the Knicks courted him in free agency at one time. And apparently it must have been money because it couldn't have been nothing about love because this dude wants to be a Knick.
Andy signed up for a lot.
I look at it and I'm like, well, I just feel like we got a guy like him on the roster. I think he might be a little bit more offensively potent than a guy like Josh Hart. But I don't know. I'm going to let you tell me your opinion on Bruce Brown. What can Brown do for you on the Knicks? Or does he not do a damn thing for you? I mean, what is your take on Bruce Brown and his courting of the Knicks right now?
He fits, but we already have that. He doesn't bring something we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's bench scoring or, starting scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he fits. He's like another Josh Hart. I mean, he's not really that efficient of a scorer, not that great of a three-point shooter. He is a good defender and a good hustler. And, I mean, I think we've seen that movie. We've got that on the roster. I don't think acquiring another person with that skill set really makes sense. I think we have to assess the roster for what we don't have, not reinforce what we do have.
Yeah.
That's my take, man.
I agree. It's a lot of redundancy. I think we've been down that path before when we talk about redundancy. Is that not the issue we had with R.J. Barrett being in the uniform? Is that not what we've seen with Emmanuel Quickly being on the roster and having guys that were combo guards playing ahead of him or playing with him? It was never a defined position. Well, it was just redundancy at the position. Nobody ever had one defined position on the Knicks. The Knicks had a plethora of the same types of players. And the minute I thought about Bruce Brown, I said, well, Josh Hart. That's the first guy that came to mind. You know, you talk about a tough guy, guy who's going to play all out, you know, balls to the wall, whatever way you want to claim it. You know, we already got those energy type role players. You know, I don't think anybody questions whether or not Josh Hart is a tough person. We just sometimes question whether or not he should be shooting the damn ball in certain situations, you know, and his
little making $80 million.
Yeah, you know, the contract's a little big. You know, he kind of did the scratch off, and I don't know, he had all the numbers, but he had enough to get the paycheck. You know, so we look. What do New Yorkers do as fans? We count your damn money. Let's just put it where it is. Count your money and your production. When those two damn things don't add up, you get booed. That's the key. You want to know why you get booed in New York? Your paycheck is not matching your activity. And we are the first ones to let you know. So in Josh Hart's case, we seem like he's kind of gotten the little bit of the bell is woke. You know, the alarm clock is rang a little bit with him, and he's starting to get the idea that you might need to start bringing at least some sort of energy back to what you initially got paid to do in the first place. And
I'm having deja vu, man, because we had this conversation about Zion potentially coming to New York, and people walking up to him in the club, approaching him that he wasn't living up to his contract.
Oh yeah, you can't be at the stripper buffet in New York. Because let me tell you, they take a picture and they probably will let somebody know you were there and let you know. He can never sleep. You can never sleep. Well, he said the city never sleeps. You know, I feel for these athletes. I always laugh because Charles Smith still lives in New York, which I think is one of the bravest things I've ever heard.
In a lot of times past.
Yeah. So, yeah. Those Knicks fans are numb. Got amnesia at this point because if he can say –
we're just old and dementia's setting in.
Yeah, it must be that. It has to be that because let me tell you, I think back in the day, I'm surprised he survived here. He survived the 90s. This is amazing. But, you know, this fan base will just let you know what you're not doing right. And, you know, they might say we're a hard fan base. I just think we're very fair. When you're playing great, we cheer you. If you play terrible, we boo you. It's a simple math. But, you know, I'm in agreement with you with Bruce Brown. You know, I think if we didn't have certain players on this team, I think he's an ideal fit for New York. I think he can bring those intangibles. He clearly has the resume a little bit more now, having won with the Denver Nuggets, you know, under Jokic. So, yeah, great thought, but a hard pass, as they say, as far as I think thinking that we need to acquire him, you know. But we do know that the Knicks are definitely interested in him, as per Ian Begley, you know, announcing that. But let's move on to another person that Ian Begley was talking about even today on his show, the Putback.
Where's Eric?
Eric would love this. You know, Plan 3B, bring back first. This is where we are in New York again. I always felt when I started writing this, I said, you know, and writing out the topics, I said, you know what? This will probably trigger the hell out of most New York Knicks fans because the first thing you're thinking about is, damn, this is going to be the point guard. He's gonna start over Jalen Brunson. And we're going to be miserable once again with this guy playing completely out of position. But also who joined Ian Begley on his Putback podcast was Scott Perry. And Scott Perry, obviously, we know, former president of New York Knicks.
He's had a lot to say about the Knicks this year.
Yeah. He's like, he wants to come back home. I can't see him. He's like his whole topic. He's the Knick expert now and Knick whisperer. So one of the things he touched on was Alec Burks brought up. And when talking about players that the Knicks could acquire and maybe should go after, he endorsed this as one of the moves they could make. He feels like his fit here in New York is well noted. He's got a great relationship with the coach. He has also a great relationship with players that were here while he was here. We know he's a bucket. We know he can score. You know, this is what he is. He's automatic. You know, he can get you a lot of points in a pinch. We've seen all this about Alec Burks. What we were probably a little bit more pissed off was him being out of position, obviously, like I mentioned, and overused by Thibodeau.
Starting in front of quickly.
Yeah, playing in front of a real point guard, this guy took his job, and it's just a bunch of, not too comfortable things that come with the name Alec Burks, and I think it's a little bit unfair to him because what he is really good at is shooting. He can get points.
Right.
And we do need production off the bench like his. But this was one of the guys that, like I said, Scott Perry even endorsed us going after. Now, I'm going to take a little deep breath, and I'm going to ask you this question. With all the things said, and we'll move past the whole Thibodeau, love romance with Alec Burks. We're just going to call him AB, Alex Burks. AB, do you think AB would be a great fit for a New York Knicks team? Somebody gave a frown, so I'm like, I guess not. Do you feel like he would be a great return back to New York?
If all the other options fell through or were just the terms were untenable. Again, my hierarchy in this situation is get DeJounte Murray. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work out. Malcolm Brogdon. Look at that. That works out. If those things are untenable and it just doesn't happen, or somebody offers him something stupid for both players, or Brogdon stays in Portland, do I hate that idea? No, of course not. I don't. Again, I think a lot of people were kind of butthurt about how quickly was used in that situation, and Burke in front of. I don't care about that, honestly. We become a pretty darn good 3-point shooting team compared to last year.
Yep.
You look at the numbers, and the team could shoot the rock, and adding him in will help that. And yes, he can play defense, and he can back up both positions and all of that stuff. And he can dribble the ball up the floor. I don't think he can be a point guard, but yes, he can dribble the ball up the floor. Mm-hmm. So I don't hate it. I like it better than going after Brown, personally. Yeah. But the other one that I love is if he becomes a buyout candidate, and Eric and you were talking about this 2 weeks ago, Gordon Hayward.
Oh,
I like that idea like a lot. I like
that.
Idea.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, we not just because it's our thought. Eric and I talked about it, but
it makes too much sense.
It makes, and that's why it probably won't happen. You're either CAA or you're nobody. But to me, I think that everything, and that's kudos to Eric for actually first putting that on the table about Gordon Hayward. I just think the fit makes so much sense for what we need. It fills in a lot of the gaps that we have issues with on this team, whether it's shot creation or shooting or just having a all-time pro, that can start for you if you need or come off the bench. Imagine he's featured in the second unit. That second unit is just an incredible unit at that point. If Gordon Hayward is the guy you're running the whole offense through. I just don't know why the Knicks. They could be waiting clearly for him to be a buyout candidate, but I always think there's such risk in that because you never know what other team may, offer him something even better. You're praying that he has love for playing in New York and moving his family here or whatever the story is, and loving this coach. This coach is not the easiest coach for players to love. Gordon seems like an old school guy. So maybe he does fit here, but does he see the Knicks as an opportunity for him to win a title?
I think the opportunity to win a title is, yes, important, but just simply from a fiscal standpoint, if you are a buyout candidate that does not have a contract next year, you want to go someplace you can showcase and get minutes.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. And the Knicks, from what I understand,
we will get minutes with the Knicks.
Yeah, and they also have the Knicks have one of the highest abilities. I think they have their biannual, whatever it is. I forgot what it is, but they have more money to offer anybody who's a buyout candidate.
And we're not at the tax threshold and all of that stuff too. So
yeah, they could offer him a pretty sizable, nice contract and put an extra year on top of it. So maybe will that incentivize him? I don't know. I think it's imperative that the Knicks know that they are missing a piece. I think that's the biggest question has always been for me. Like, we as fans, we're casuals. If you want people to say we're not the experts here, I tend to think that I've watched enough basketball, and you've watched enough basketball for years. We know when things suck and when they don't suck. This is really.
I think you're an expert. I wouldn't put myself in that category.
Oh no! Stop! You're very well gifted in this. I mean, as fans, you see what's on the floor. That's really what it's about. We talk passionate about it, and it's about what we see on the floor and the product. And we know when certain players make sense versus other players just not making sense. We knew RJ and Julius couldn't coexist. You saw that. I saw that. They were redundant players. And they were clumsy on the floor as a pair. So it was never ideal. But when you look at a team like the Knicks, they're missing a wing. And OG's, doing a very solid job, but you're missing a wing that can score, or either someone you can bring in and they can move to the 2-guard position. You want somebody that makes it difficult for teams to guard you in half court when the boogie gets down, because we're talking about the playoffs here. Nobody's talking about regular season basketball. Right now, I mean, it's great. We got to get into the dance clearly, so it's an important part. But I've always thought about what we do when the playoffs come. That to me is the most important thing. Everything I look at now is for playoff basketball. It's not about regular season ass whoopings, because I could care less as long as we have a good enough record to get in. Because you can have the top record. We've seen that. You can be number 1, have the best record, and get stomped by number 18. So, as much as we want to believe that, we're a shoo-in because we have a high seed, that does not always equate. One bad matchup in the first round and you're asked out. So that's just exactly.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried about the 5 spot?
I'm worried, yes. And I'm going to tell you why I'm worried. Because if Hartenstein can't go, like we are seeing, and I think he's just been the unsung hero. I know OG's been great, but I think Hartenstein, I stomped the yard for Hartenstein. Like damn near if you watch all my game recap, read all my game recaps, I'm like, Hartenstein, I might as well go get his damn jersey and become his agent, because I just think what he's doing is so important. I don't know if the Knicks are in the position they are in right at this moment. Well, Isaiah Hartenstein Steen or whatever, being the dude that he's been for the Knicks, in the absence of Mitchell Robinson, because Mitchell don't have this game. No. I love Mitch. Love Mitch. But this isn't about love. No. He's not getting no damn Valentine gift from me. I care less about loving him. What I want to do is win.
You need to get a shirt that says that, like New York Knicks, it's not about love.
Yeah, Cupid ain't putting no arrow on my buttocks. I'm not worried about that. For me, it's about whether or not you can perform in the pinch. Can you offer something to the Knicks that they don't have that makes us hard to guard? That's what basketball is about, making the other team get tortured because they can't counter what you're doing. And you need to have at least 5 viable options on offense on the floor. These days of you can't have a Dennis Rodman in this game. No. You can't have a non-scorer. It doesn't make any sense, and I love Rodman, but the game today, you need 5 people on the floor that can put the damn ball in the hole. Because if you don't have that, you're basically playing on 4 on 5 in a 3-point shoot, so the score can get ran up real quick. But what Isaiah Hartenstein has been able to do, he's been able to, one, draw out, like I said, from the middle. Now you got to go out and find him because he's passing to everybody else. So you can't just lax off of him. And, and he's a great rebounder. Like we've watched him. He's got double-figure rebounding.
There's no drop off with offensive rebounding.
Yeah. So my thing is this: if he's not a go, and I thought Jericho Sims was very serviceable last night. That's fine, but we know he's not.
Sample.
Yeah, he's not that dude either.
And neither is Precious Achiuwa at 6'7".
Yeah. He's like what Mitch kind of brings. You're going to get some pedestrian output on offense. And as great as Mitch is, it's not like Mitch is like David Lee and he's going to double every night. Like, oh God, he's getting 15 and 20 rebounds. He's a little pedestrian. I think he's probably averaging maybe 10 rebounds. I mean, and that's your only job. That's why I always get weird about that. If your only job is to block shots and get rebounds, you should not be averaging 1.5 blocks and 10 rebounds. What the hell else are you doing out there? That's me.
So I got the second part of that question. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the preamble to the second part of that question.
Mm-hmm.
So, medical talk.
Gotcha.
Right now, he has been dealing with Achilles tendonitis since the beginning of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Playing through it. He's dealing with Achilles tendonitis that is so bad that it is turning into extensive inflammation in the area, which is not a good sign. So I don't know if you've ever been around somebody that snapped an Achilles. My wife snapped one on vacation once. This is the kind of stuff that predates that. If his Achilles goes down, which is not outside the realm of possibility, you can't roll out Precious Achua, Jericho Sims, and expect to go anywhere with that. You just can't. So my second part of the question to you is do we need to make a move there?
I would. I mean, when you're saying that now, I was just thinking about two people that are on the same team that we were talking about chasing. And that is, do you go to Atlanta and you ask them what would it take to get a guy like Capella and Murray? Yeah. Do you kind of put your eggs in the basket? Because there's two play. When hearing about my joke was, and I wasn't trying to joke, but I was being funny. I said the Knicks medical staff, I was like, they're saying he has a twisted ankle. I said he's going to come out in a full body cast by Monday. Well, the full body cast didn't come out because when we heard about the Achilles tendon, I'm like, well, damn. This is not Christmas. This is a piece of coal in the stocking right now when you hear these kind of things come out, because the first thing you think about is, damn, how long is he going to be out, and is this going to be a lingering issue? And by what I'm hearing, it sounded like, because I actually posted a little bit of diagnosis off a Google search about what it meant and what it entailed. And the first thing I'm thinking when I hear Achilles, I'm thinking, well, damn, there's no way you can say that's good. Because the possibility of that going or rupturing or having an issue with that's a nightmare for any athlete. So,
have fun for the next 18 months.
See, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we often got to wonder, because this is a knock that I've always had with Thibodeau. I mean, people say, oh, dude, I'm almost sure someone may have known these things about him, and then you log him in for 40-plus minutes a night. It's like, what the hell are you? What are you thinking when your main center went down? Which he was injury prone. We already knew Mitchell Robinson.
This is Tibbs 101. This is Tibbs 101, man.
Yeah, it's like you knew Mitchell Robinson is just an accident waiting to happen. No offense to him, but we know. We're like around December. You pull out your watch. You're like, Mitch is going to be injured. What was it? First week in December? Third week in January? We're like, he's not playing the whole season. So the Knicks are like, let's get some insurance. You go get Hartenstein, and you're like, playing 45 minutes.
But he's had this issue since the beginning of last season.
See? And what did the Knicks do? Play him 45 minutes. He can take it. Whoa. It's like you do know that your next dude that's up could be on The Simpsons. I mean, he's a Sims, and he got hair like the guy on The Simpsons.
I chose The Sims.
Yeah, he's not ready for that stage. No. So now you bring in Precious Achua. We Lord of the Rings Precious, whatever you want to call him. He's undersized. He's not playing the five. Yes. So it's like, what are you doing? And this is always the thing that troubles me most about the Knicks. You have opportunities. We talked about back last year, and I'm trying to go revisit and cry over that. But we're like, you have a golden opportunity to get past, maybe because of the Eastern Conference Finals. So that it's opened up, and you miss these opportunities to kind of to give yourself some sort of insurance down the stretch. And we're looking now, hearing about Hartenstein and the fact that they noted that this was an injury that he's been dealing with, and now all of a sudden we're at this apex of the season where he's vital to what you do, and you get an underside, because in Thibodeau's mind, he says, and it's out of his own mouth, that OG Anunoby can play the five. See, this is the delusion. If OG's playing the five, then who's covering OG's man is my question. So what is he? He's playing the five? I mean, come on. I mean, you have a team that suffers from, having a great defensive identity to begin with, and OG helped show that now. But
that would be better than Randall playing the five, though.
Randall playing the five would be great, but it's like Thibodeau, I don't know why he's ever pushed back against it. Like,
We're very dependent on defense at that position. We're very dependent on defense and rim protection at that. Randall isn't going to give you either of those. That's why he never had Obi Toppin and Randall on the court at the same time.
Yeah, because somebody's going to score 1,000 points in the paint. It's just not. It's not going to. There's going to be some alligator arms because Obi was a subpar.
Today's NBA, Ty, the prime objective is to protect the paint.
Yeah, that's what he. His theory is.
Drop coverage, baby.
Yeah, we drop in. We drop in. Josh drop it in. I don't care if you give up 400 threes in a quarter. It's volume. It's like, come on, dude.
Drop coverage, and drop coverage defense and trust the pass, man.
Yeah. It's like a cliche, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Protect the rim and trust the pass. That's going to be a T-shirt I'm going to get made up. I'm going to get like the Tim Burton penguin and transpose Thibodeau's head on it.
Trust the pass.
And I'm going to say, protect the rim and trust the pass.
Josh Hart's playing the 5.
I'm going to make.
Josh Hart will play the 5. All Knick fans just jumped out the window just down there.
Tell Thibodeau I love you. I'm just yeah.
If I actually woke up and told people that Josh is playing the 5, they probably would believe it because it's possible. You never know with him. Precious Achiuwa, he looked like he's starting to come around and find some of his game, but he's at best the backup for Randall at the 4. That's what I think.
He's a 4.
He's not a 5. He's not anchoring down the middle. I don't know. When thinking about that, the minute Mitch Robinson went down, I know his value would be low, but I'm like, well, the Knicks definitely need to probably move away from him. I know that would probably not sound good because everybody talks about his importance, but
you're not trading. You're not going to find any reasonable market for a player that's out on injury. No.
Yeah. But they need that position to be more shored up. It always gets back to, like I said, the Knicks had opportunities, during the draft. You got to address some depth in the modern day basketball terms.
Okay.
You can't go out and get these guys that are throwback players to 1990 and then expect to have the 2000 results of what the game is being played like now. The Knicks needed to always replace these guys with modern day type players, and the Knicks don't have the depth. Well, you keep trading away all your draft picks and your assets. You need to draft not for the coach all the time. You got to draft for the culture of the team moving forward when the coach eventually gets fired, because they always get fired. So
this is a position I think we should be drafting for.
We
have some first-round picks this year.
Got to get one.
I think, to tell you the truth, package them up, move up, and get a somewhat competent defensive center.
Yeah,
that could run the court.
Yeah.
Somebody's athletic, doesn't need to be a big scorer, runs the court like a deer, blocks shots, rebounds. Someone like a Jalen Duren type. Maybe not quite as talented, because you're probably not going to get somebody that talented, but somebody in that strata. Somebody that'll fit in and the coach will actually play.
Yeah.
My dream scenario, ultimate dream scenario, Gordon Hayward on buyout, trade for DeJounte Murray, draft a backup center.
Yeah. I think that'd be a very solid move, because the Knicks have been, passing on their draft pick or their drafting classes recently. I think you can't keep doing that. I think it's just work against the greater good of your organization to continuously, the Knicks have been noted before. People cried about us giving up our draft picks. That was the key thing. Like, the Knicks are always trading away their first round as well. It's no different if you're trading out of the draft and trading back or whatever. You need talent. The Knicks are never in a position where they can say we've got enough talent.
No.
This has never been this organization's thing. We've always been a team of gritty, grimy players that come in and workers. We had the Anthony Masons, rest in peace to him, the John Stark types. We've always had these guys that are maybe not the most skilled, but the most hardworking. But you've got to draft for actual talent nowadays. Guys that you can see developing into being able to be versatile and playing more than one position. We're in positionless basketball era from what they claim. So you got to start drafting players that can actually fill in multiple roles and not just be I never like this word, specialist. I don't want to hear about a specialist on the basketball court.
That's part of the problem here. The draft picks that you're going to have are not going to be high enough to bring up a high impact talented player that could fill multiple roles.
Yeah.
Most players that are drafted, and the reason that, we're not drafting, honestly, is the draft picks aren't going to play. But if the draft pick fits that specific role that Tibbs looks for in a center and brings that skill set, he will play him.
He will play him. I agree.
He will play him. And that's what I think we need, because I think we need insurance at that position, because Mitch, I love Mitch too. He's not dependable.
Yeah.
He's just going to be one of those players, and it's going to get worse as he gets older.
Yeah.
He's going to have all of these great attributes and can impact the game and stuff like that, but it's never going to be something that you can go to bed at night and know it's going to be there in the morning. Hartenstein, again, he doesn't have a contract beyond next year. He's played himself into a better contract. We don't even know if we can keep him. We have early bird rights, but we don't have full bird rights on him. So who knows what's going to happen with that situation. The guys behind are break glass in case of emergency at the 5. Jericho Sims is not a 5. He's not a 4. He's not a real NBA player. I got to be honest with you. He does a couple of things that are nice, and he's athletic, but no offensive game, and he's 6'7", playing the 5. Precious Achua, again, nice player. He's a backup power forward.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be real about that. We don't know if Hartenstein's going to be back. We don't know what he's going to get offered. He showed a lot. We don't know about Mitch. That's a position where you can take 2 first-round draft picks, put them together, move up some spots, and get somebody. Because, again, most people with functional centers that do what Tibbs wants them to do are not really available. I can't think of any that are just we could trade for easily, that are good rim defenders, good rebounders, good defenders all around, and don't require the ball.
Not in today's game. I mean, who the hell? Everybody wants to touch the rock. Everybody wants to score. Everybody thinks they can score.
Yeah. Duren would have been perfect.
Yeah, and we could have drafted him. Imagine that.
Didn't we kind of draft him? We traded that.
We did. It was some that was always the bothersome thing.
That was a crazy night. I was watching you guys when Craig was still on the show.
Yeah,
and Craig was like the mad scientist going through Twitter trying to find out everything that was going on, because all the trades were nuts. I remember watching that show. I watched every second of that show, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Duren, I think we did draft him. I think that was one of the things. I know we did work out the deal with the Pistons. He was shooting up the boards. People talk highly about him. Yeah, I always said, well, why the hell?
Something out with Charlotte first, right? And then we worked it out.
It was a Charlotte deal that went to our picks went to Charlotte. This was all the move from under Kemba Walker, our man Alec Burks, and Nerlens Noel. This is does that make the Knicks fans feel so great that's the reason why you might not have Jalen Duren. But it was enough space for Brunson, so we understand the greater good down the line. But
I wish Eric was on for all of this Alec Burks talk. I miss him right now.
Oh, he would lose his cap. His whole shower cap would just explode because he would not be able to handle
it all red.
Oh, he would be like, you just saw that motion. It would have not been good. It would have been a bad moment up in here. Yep. Every time I bring him up in the admin thread with the other guys,
it turns into caps.
Oh, yeah. All cap lock. Yeah, he let the whole barrel. He cannot handle it. He's disjointed ever since they traded RJ. He's like our draft assets, young players, because he keeps saying that. He has been accurate in a lot of things he says. So he's like, they're gonna trade all our picks. It's like, meanwhile, what's his name? Leon Rose is like, I am definitely doing that.
Eric knows basketball, and he knows his Knicks.
He knows his Knicks. He knows it. He's definitely on point as far as being able to tell you, predicting the future of the Knicks. That's always a good thing he can do. Yep. It's so funny. Even with draft picks, he does it. he's got great knowledge about the picks and all that stuff. It's so funny.
God, I'm thinking about the Knicks fix days. Like, you two are very much aligned in our opinions, but me and Eric have gone off on each other about certain things over the years. I mean, really, like long chains of disagreement and
good stuff, man.
yeah.
Eric and I really did meet, obviously we all met on the Knick fix. Alan Hahn, shout out to Alan Hahn, but one of the key things where we were always, and even to this day, we're really aligned in basketball philosophy. But man, I've watched some. I do miss that battle back and forth.
Yeah,
it was like a nice thing over there as far as being able to talk to the guys, and everybody had their own different opinions, and it was good. It was good sports. It was good talking. That's how you talk sports. You poke your chest out about what you think and believe, and talk a little crap.
I loved it. I clocked into that for every day for years. I think I started about 2009, 2010. You guys were already firmly entrenched there. Yeah. But my favorite person to do battle with was Gustavo Castillo. We had like a blood war.
That's a war. I remember him.
We could not stand each other. I mean, I liked the guy. I mean, it's not like I couldn't stand him, but when it came to our opinions, yeah, especially about the process in Philadelphia.
Oh, the process meets. What I call the process meets. That's what I always called it, the process meets.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted the tank back then. Everybody was driving the tank. It's like, do you know the Knicks can't tank? We can get the best. We can get the worst record, and we'll fall to number 12. That's just
I wanted us to tank too, but I knew it was never going to happen.
Never going to work. It just doesn't. They always talk about the New York Knicks not being able to rebuild, but we're never getting. RJ was our highest pick since Ewing. What does that tell you? And how did that work out? We had the worst record. Everybody wanted Zion. I've always wanted John Morant. Minus the gun violence. That was my dude. Eric will tell you. He was in Murray State. I'm like, we need to get that dude. I wish we can get that dude.
I remember
getting RJ, which is. I hate saying sad that we got RJ, but we all knew it was a two-man race as far as that draft, and
it was.
We fell to third place, and shout out to RJ. He did a good job. He did win.
The other side of the thing is, all those times we wanted to tank, we probably would have made the wrong picks anyway.
Oh yeah, no.
Thinking about who we were picking in the lottery,
we take Jordan Hills. We don't draft real good players.
Oh.
You're going to get a Frank Ntilikina or a Kevin Knox.
I remember the Knicks were excited with the possibility that he was going to drop.
Who Jordan Hill. Man, let me tell you one thing. Walsh got celebrated, but sometimes it's like, oh, this is some players. I mean, Brandon Jennings, I think, was in that draft. Knicks needed a point guard. Heavens forbid you drafted a point guard in New York, because we've only been without one for
Halliburton.
The last point guard was Rod Strickland. Actually with Steph Murray, but I'm just being sarcastic. It's like, you didn't have a point guard. We're the only team that never had a point guard for the last 30 years. Until Brunson comes along, and he's not really a typical point guard. But it's like we're like, well, thank God we got something competent at the one. That's all we look for in Brunson.
Brandon Jennings, when he had game. I know we got him in the Knick uniform, but when he had game, getting Brandon Jennings in the Garden would have been crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. He went to Milwaukee, ate some cheese. Meanwhile, he should have been eating a slice in New York.
He was electric when he started off. I mean, he was fun to watch.
He was dropping teams. He just had a kill list basically when he came into the league. He wanted to. You didn't draft me. You thought you underestimated me because he came from overseas, I believe. And that dude just came in and was lights out.
Right. He played in Italy or something like that.
I think what was worse is Walsh's excuse was nobody told him about him. What's your damn job to know who's in the draft? My guys never got back to me. Tell me about him.
You're a general manager. I'm not even going to say it. You're a good man, Donnie. Yeah.
Let's move on from this. All right, another person that's been brought up in sort of the Knick conversations, which I'm like, well, you might as well just get all your picks up if you're even thinking about this guy, and that's Jordan Clarkson.
No.
People have been talking about him in Utah being one of the perfect fits. I can't tell you too much about his game from a personal standpoint. Like I said, I'm either Knicks or no Nick. If Utah came in and played, I watched a couple of Utah's games. I know he's a six-man candidate always. He's built to play that kind of role. I think he's a little erratic from what I understand in his game. I don't know if he's a chucker, but that's what I believe. I mean, he's being talked about, but I'm of the mindset anytime you go with Trader Danny, you can just forget about it. He's going to want 75 picks and a couple of your kids, because we saw what happened with, if Donovan Mitchell rumors are true, he definitely indeed wanted everything the Knicks had. So, I don't think Grimes gets this done. He's an intricate part because Utah is winning. They're playing pretty well right now. I don't know. What's your thought on Jordan Clarkson if he was made available?
No. For exactly the reasons you were talking about, the cost is going to be too high.
I agree.
Danny Ainge can go blank himself as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, he can.
So I'm not going to say it. But with Clarkson, and I mean, I've followed his career. I'm always in box scores, always looking to see what New Orleans is doing, just out of curiosity, or any team. And you'll see box scores from him where he just lit it up. I mean, really, efficient, put up a lot of points in like 26 minutes. And you're like, wow, this guy's a really good player. And then you'll see the rest of his box scores. And it's kind of like that peaks and valleys kind of thing. And again, it reminds me of Quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I would rather go with somebody like Malcolm Brogdon, who I think you can get for less, and I think is a little bit more even as far as his performance, a little bit more dependable. Because, again, you get a player like Jordan Clarkson to step in and put the rock in the hole, and sometimes he's not going to do that. And then what is he worth?
Yeah.
I think Brogdon brings a lot more intangibles, and a lot more that he can do, like run a team and distribute and play point guard, like really play point guard. He's a better defender. I'm not a big fan of the Clarkson thing, and I don't think you're going to get him for less than 2 first-rounders, and that's just nuts.
Yeah, I don't want none of that nasty work as far as I'm concerned. When I think about Brogdon, he played in Virginia. He was an older guard. Well, I think he was 4 years. I think he played 4 years in Virginia.
He was a 4-year starter.
Yeah, so he always came with the right resume. The injuries were the only thing that ever concerned me with regards to him. You would definitely have a floor leader. You would definitely have a participant that's going to come in and give you, he's the reigning sixth man of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So
yes, he is.
So
quickly last year.
Yeah, so he
would fit in with the locker room too, and contribute to the locker room and the culture.
He reminds me a little bit of Andre Miller. That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah.
Better shooter, but more like Andre Miller, very pace-setting guard. I mean, you can't argue it. I mean, like we said, we're in talent acquisition. You want someone that can come in and do a lot of things that Brunson don't do. Set up the team, run the offense a lot better. Get people more involved, because you do need playmakers. You need some playmakers on the Knicks right now. We have a lot of shooters, a lot of scorers, but not enough playmakers, in my opinion. I don't think Julius and Brunson literally have that kind of a wiring. I think Brunson, when he concentrates and makes it a focus of his, I think he can be that point guard for you. But night in, night out, I don't think you're paying him really to be a point guard. You're paying him to be a dynamic ISO player.
Yeah.
He just happens to be undersized, which makes him a point guard in this league. But I would say
wholeheartedly.
Yeah, Brogdon is not. That's not like the worst pickup. You're filling the need with the sixth man, and you're also getting leadership. I mean, I don't see why you would not want that on the Knicks. And if he's not going to cost you a lot, then you can also add another piece.
Yeah.
Maybe then you can go out and look for maybe Gordon in a buyout situation. I mean, if you add those two guys to this team, the Knicks are significantly a lot better come playoff time. So I don't think that's the worst thing you could do as far as getting Brogdon.
No, we are a couple of moderate moves away from being pretty scary.
Yeah.
I think, again, my A option is to get somebody that could be a third scorer, like a real third scorer. Brogdon can't do that for you. None of these guys that we've talked about can do that for you, but Murray can.
Mm-hmm.
Murray can. I don't know, man. It's an exciting time to be a fan. It's an exciting time to do this show. It's an exciting time to kind of be a part of this with the fans and the fans of the show and Knicks fans and everything like that, to kind of realize that you're kind of on the precipice of like really kind of being dangerous.
Yeah. We're coming. We're coming because, this is one of the few times we've seen a couple of years in a row where we see a team. It's really, for me, it's Jalen Brunson. That was when watching him come from Dallas, watching him in Dallas and then coming to New York. When I knew that was a possibility, I said, this dude is very good. I think he will be not respected enough, but you'll end up respecting him because I think people missed that West Coast run he was on and thought that, what is he playing for a contract? It's like, no, the dude is damn good.
Yeah.
He's not backing up. He's a pit bull. I call him the pit boss. That's what I call him. He's a pit boss out there. He's undersized, but he's just so much more than just being an undersized point guard. He's a dynamic player in this league. I think he's a top 15 player right now. He may catch up into the top 10 if he keeps on the trajectory he's going on. When he's not in a Knick uniform and when he's not playing because the game just does not seem the same with him out of it. So, and who knows when the All-Star voting, if he gets in as an All-Star, I would like his chances in the All-Star game if he can rock out, if they give him the minutes, because he's one of those dudes that when the lights get hot, he gets hot. We watched it on big stage now where, in both conferences, you saw him do it great with Luka, and they went on a run to the Western Conference Finals. We saw him get the Knicks into the second round. Almost, if having a little bit of extra help, he would definitely maybe been into the Eastern Conference Finals, which would have been one hell of an accomplishment for a dude that many people don't seem to appreciate around the league. And sometimes maybe the Knicks fans don't appreciate him enough. We know he's not getting voted in enough from our fan base as far as popularity.
We've never been all-star voters.
We're never. And I think that's the thing. We're not seeing – Knicks fans are always worried about the injury. I think that is the one thing we always say. Don't go into the Olympics. Don't go into the All-Star game. You're gonna break your leg, kid. Literally that would shoot your eye out or whatever.
Shoot your eye out.
Your tongue is going to get stuck to the bowl. Just don't do it. That's how Knicks fans feel. We remember the Amari punching a fire hydrant and go, ooh, that had glass on it. Yeah, it might scar you up a little bit. We've watched these little things that rob us of the glory.
The best thing I could say about Brunson?
Mm-hmm.
For as long as we've both been fans, the Knicks have never been an offensive powerhouse.
Never.
We've never been a particularly skilled offensive team. Even the 90s Knicks with Ewing. Ewing was a hit-and-miss offensive player. He was turnaround jumpers for the most part. Some of them went in, some of them didn't.
Yep.
Other than Melo, since I've been a fan, he is the only player that when he releases the ball, I know it's going in.
Yes,
sir. I look at the shot, and I'm like, that's going in. Hands down. There's like Knick anxiety with everybody else shooting. I'm like, oh shit, crossing my fingers. But there are times that he just lines up and I'm like, yeah, that's a bucket.
Money.
Same thing with Melo sometimes. I would just see him just get into his ISO and see him make a move, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bucket.
That's a bucket. I told Eric one of my biggest comparison to Brunson is we often talk about the what is he? It's like, oh, he's not a point guard. Yeah. I always said he's Melo. I say he's a short Melo. Yeah. But he's, in my opinion, when looking at
disagreeing with that,
I look at his game and we know what Melo was. Melo was a special talent. He was one of the best offensive talents and weapons we've ever seen. But Brunson is not second to him. And what I'm saying that for is that we watch Brunson's game win more better than Melo did in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has a way, because I don't know if I would say, I think if you put Brunson in the same situation that Melo was in Indiana and Roy Hibbert, does the can and, shuts down the rest of the world in New York, I don't think that would be a shot that Brunson would have taken. I think he would have figured out a way to get the best shot possible to win games. I mean, he came out of college, not that Melo didn't. He won an NCAA tournament also. We know Brunson's resume. He has 2 under his belt. He's just a winning type player, and he happens to be maybe some of the best footwork I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't even when I'm talking about the history of ball that I've ever watched.
I watched things Melo wasn't. He has will, like strong will, and I'm talking about that in like a good way.
Yeah.
He's disciplined.
Yeah.
He is a leader in his own way, and he is mature. I wouldn't say any of that stuff about Melo.
I wouldn't either. And maybe that's the thing that I'm trying to get across, that you got across way better than I did, with regards to that. To me is what separates him from Melo. I know a lot of people will look and say, well, how dare you? But it's not about dare, it's about winning.
Yeah.
Can you be the difference maker in a series that when you're lit and you're going in, the teams are like, oh my damn, I might not be able to defend him. And this is bringing back into this right here that I'm about to go into. I just call the thing Knicks for clicks. And the reason that I'm talking about this, and let me revisit back what I said, why my name was the head of security with the Knicks tonight. This is me defending the Knicks. We heard last night, I think it was last night's show, they talked about on, I think it was TNT, Candace Parker came out, and a couple other people. Jamal Crawford was on the line also, and shout out to him. He was defending the Knicks.
Jamal Crawford.
Yeah, he's always a Knick. I wish the Knicks had brought him back a little while ago. I thought he would have been a great fit for the locker.
Yeah, he has such an amazing handle. I don't want to distract you from what you're talking about.
He's a bucket. I mean, he's called Jay Crossover for a reason. That dude's phenomenal. His highlights are ridiculous. Even now, when he plays in his own pro-am game in Seattle, it's just at this age he's still a bucket. But getting to Candace's thing, we revisited back the Becky Hammon thing. Becky Hammon, we talked about Jalen being too short. They don't know, blah, blah, blah. We've heard all these things that probably Jalen Brunson's heard his whole entire life about you're slow, you're not fast, you're undersized, et cetera, et cetera. And then he wins 2 titles in the NCAA. I think he won a state title. So his last crowning achievement would either be MVP or winning an NBA title. He knocked on the door a couple years ago, like I said, in Dallas with that epic run. And we are here right now in the Knicks. The thing that I'm a little pissed off about is the Knicks for clicks thing. It's one thing to talk about the Knicks if we are playing bad or even if we're playing good. The thing that I always say is that you just make sure that you're not putting false narratives out there. Candace Parker misspoke, and I think she tried to correct herself on Twitter because the Knicks fan base, obviously, they're not having it. I told you, when we're great, we defend our kind. That's just what it is. And we're like a bunch of rabid dogs when that happens. But, needless to say, her narrative was that Jalen Brunson got out the first round and he was okay in the second round against Miami last year. And we're like, well, that's a damn lie. he was not okay. It wasn't good. He was absolutely phenomenal. In fact, the Miami Heat coach, Spoelstra, what did he do? He said he hated how good that damn guy is, basically. Yeah. He hates to like him. And we know the rivalry between Miami and New York. It is not great for them to ever talk great about New York. We always know that. But he had to tip his hat because we know that Brunson was really only taken out of that series because of one error on his behalf. It was the last error. Had he not dribbled too far into the paint, that game could have easily came back to the Garden because he was smoking Miami. That is my issue whenever the Knicks are talked about. There's certain narratives that are true about the Knicks. We know about our past. We know about our current situation. Knicks fans are very knowledgeable and very aware of what we are not and what we have not been and what we are now. And what we are is a very good team. My biggest thing was when you think about those kind of things, I was like, I had to pull up like Birdman did in the Breakfast Club and then say, put some respect on my man's name because, Jalen Brunson is a dog in this league. He's a top 15 player. I don't even question that. Like you're talking about the automatic with the shots. Whatever he is in the game towards the end, I'm thinking the Knicks can win that damn game. That's not a feeling I've had about any Knick. God knows how long. Bernard King I felt that way about. I mean, literally, when this guy has the magic going, we stand a damn good chance of beating any damn team in this league.
He's a finisher.
He is
We haven't seen many of those.
He's a finisher. And for all these people out here chirping and got all these different pundits they want to attach to Jalen Brunson about, oh, he's undersized. Oh, he's not a sexy pick, I guess. Or he's not, he's overpaid. Look where the Knicks are. I just want people to look at where the Knicks are. I want people to look at what happened last year in the playoffs, what could possibly happen this year in the playoffs. I bet you Cleveland don't want to see him. I bet you they hope that the Knicks go not in that 4 or 5 spot with them, that they have to face Jalen Brunson. I was just a little pissed off with regards to the fact that every time it comes to the Knicks, the narratives are geared towards being negative, as opposed to just really saying what it is about the Knicks. We have our own people like the trout mouth heaving Smith. We see him come out, and he's got to play against the negative on the Knicks. It's always about the negative. Other than Kendrick Perkins, and Jamal Crawford, shout out to those guys. You've watched them actually talk well about the Knicks, and they tell the truth and saying, well, what are you not noticing that I'm noticing? Because they're a pretty damn good team. We know what they're lacking. I think the bad thing that pisses me off also is the fact that we're hearing about undersized guards. And let me just give back a little bit of the history I've known from watching this game for a long time. The narrative that under guys that are Jalen Brunson's size cannot win titles is completely
Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas, MVP of the finals. Joe Dumars, MVP of the finals. Tony Parker, MVP of the finals. Chauncey Billups, MVP of the finals. And Steph Curry, I think, 2 years ago, MVP of the finals. So we have 5 supposed things that never happened in the league that have happened in different decades. So this nonsense, everybody goes back to the AI thing. And I said it clearly enough that what happened with AI, Philly built a team to benefit AI. They did not build a team to win a championship. What happened was Philly caught lightning in a bottle. AI is a phenomenal player, and then they ran into a Mack truck called the Lakers, who had Kobe and Shaq, and they basically had not lost a game going into the finals. So Philly got high, probably in a not great Eastern Conference. They met Shaq, and they got destroyed. I mean, that's the tail of the tape. But let's not make it like that Philly, with an undersized guard as their special player, had all these phenomenal talents around them that were going to come in and Allen couldn't get it done. It was Allen Iverson versus the Lakers. That's really what it comes down to. But this idea that you can't put a guy Jalen Brunson's size and he can't be your best player is bullshit. Because he can be your best player and he can also get you to a title. The job is of the organization to put the right players around him to maximize his talent, and if he has any weaknesses, hide it. But this whole notion that Dumars and Isaiah had great teams, those were elite teams. Mm-hmm. When you think about Chauncey Billups, that was an elite starting 5 when they had it. When you think about Tony Parker, that's obviously Tim Duncan and Popovich. And when you think about Steph Curry, all those years, even playing going to those finals, he finally won his last one as an MVP. But the key thing is, like I said, you put the right team around a player of any size. For the longest time, Jordan, when he came into the league, what was the one thing they questioned? Well, you can't build around a 6'6" guy. That's all you heard. It has to be a center. Oh, if it's not a center, this is why the Portland is jinxed with Bowie. And they've been drowning in Bowie their whole career. Because what? They took a center. A guy, which
Meanwhile, the winning championships are Luke Longley and Bill Wennington.
Yeah. So when I hear these things about, maybe in some people's lives, we can joke and say size does matter. Well, I would say, really the size of the heart of the player matters in this particular case, because you have to have the right guy and the right killer on your roster. And if you got a top 15 player who's giving everybody the business he plays, I haven't seen that guy go up against nobody yet, and all of a sudden he looked like he was meek on the floor.
No.
His numbers line right up with Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Just go check it, the head-to-head.
I saw that comparison. That was interesting because I think I had mentioned earlier that I didn't consider him to be in the same league as Tatum when we were talking about potential MVPs.
Yeah.
All right, so Knicks for clicks. I'm going to – we all love Craig. He was one of the founding members of this show.
Yeah.
Has a black belt in comments. in our section. He's
Very
very
true.
skilled with the comments.
Very true.
I'm going to borrow a word from him that he loves. Hyperbole.
That's his word.
Right? So let's talk hyperbole. The Knicks flat down, without a shadow of a doubt, and I don't want to hear about Laker fans, I don't want to hear about Bulls fans, I don't want to hear about any of that BS, are the single most passionate fan base in the NBA, and it is not even close. I'm sorry. We are in every city across this great nation. We are informed. We watch the game. We know the game. And again, we are also sports fans. So a lot of jackholes know that it commands attention and reaction, which are two things in the media that you need. Stephen A. Smith and his clown car of a show, First Take, and just his whole act is hyperbole. I think he probably is a Knicks fan. He just knows that it pushes the buttons with the audience, and people download the content because they want to hear him cry about this or that or bitch about this or that. The only single video take that I've ever seen that I thought was sincere was when we didn't take Halliburton. I thought he was generally messed up about that. But it's the reaction. It's that kind of Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith kind of button pushing, get the reaction. How do I get the attention? So they talk shit about the team that is going to draw as much in as possible and cause the biggest reaction, because the reaction is what gets the light shown on them, which is what they want and what they need. So, again, I don't even think it's serious. I don't even know if Becky Harmon believes that. I don't think anybody that knows basketball as well as she does, and she is a very knowledgeable person, very, very knowledgeable, believes what she said. Any idiot that knows this game can watch this guy and go, that guy is absolutely lights out money, and you can't stop him. You know he's going in the paint. You know what he's going to do, and you can't stop it. Even if you crash in the paint, he's still going to walk out of the building with 26. Even if you plan for him in your defensive scheme, he's still going to get 26 on you. And you can't stop it.
Nope.
So what do you got to say about him? That he's,
because he's short.
He's too short to be a franchise player. Dude is a franchise player.
He's a franchise player. I mean, what are you getting out the tape measure? I mean, you just walk through the building? Come on.
No, as much as I love Randall, and I do, I am grateful for Julius Randall. I am. Mm-hmm. However, our franchise player is not Julius Randall. It is Jalen Brunson, and it is not even debatable.
It's not even a debate. It's not.
Not even debatable.
Like I said, for me, it's all hyperbole, because I look at with the Knicks. I'm telling you, this is the first time in a long time. I'm like, we've got one. If you ever hear me around my house talking about the Knicks, or somebody runs up to me and talks, I'm going, well, I'm going to tell you, in a lot of years, we got one. I said, we got a piece. I don't know about the rest of the Knicks. But this guy is the first time I've been excited, well, the Knicks got a guy. Yeah. I mean, and then we've seen Stephon Marbury, we Ewing. I get it all. But no, I don't think nobody ever thought Ewing was one of the, if he was to face somebody off, you're like, he can dominate and win against certain guys. Well, we know Jordan held the cover over the league during that time. Mm-hmm. But my point is, even when reaching Elijah Wan, I don't know if anybody was like, oh, he's going to beat the hell out of Elijah Wan. No. But when Jalen Brunson is in the game, I'm like, well, who the hell he can't play against?
No.
Where should I get nervous at? My nervousness is with the other people. It's never watching him, because I'm like, he's either going to have a very off game and it's going to be due to him just being off, but it won't have nothing to do with what the other team did. It's just he had an off night.
Yeah.
Well, he has on nights. He's right up there with any player.
How many off nights does he really have, though?
Ain't been a lot.
No. He's consistent. He brings it, man.
Brings it. He doesn't even look the part. I think that's what hits people. He doesn't look the part, but he's every damn bit of every part of it. Because I know from my personal viewing of this league for so long, I can tell when there's that dude. Now, Eric will tell you, I wanted Julius traded after Atlanta because I'm like, he ain't that dude. Not no offense. I love it. He's got all the great accolades as a Knick. He came here. Look, none but love of that. But I can tell when you were either him or you're not him. And Brunson is him. Brunson is that dude that when you watch him on the floor, you're like, oh, we got a shot. If he comes in the fourth, he's going to will home this game. And it's not a damn thing they're going to be able to do about it. We saw it last night with the Nets, clutch play. Even we watched him making a clutch pass to Julius on the outlet pass. He kind of gets the whole manifestation of what it takes to win as a player. And sometimes it's an off night, but you never question whether or not he's capable of coming alive and winning your team something big. And that's the thing why I didn't like about when hearing people say, oh, about his size and, oh, the second round and all this other stuff. It's like he can win you a series because he's proven that time and time again. We've seen him win in the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference. The Knicks are relevant because of that dude. And I don't like him being put in, like he's somebody, he's like an anomaly. He's never going to do that again. His history has shown that he is actually that dude more so than a lot of other guys. I don't think nobody has a better resume in the Western Conference when he played that year. That was a tough-ass conference. It wasn't like a whack conference. So then we moved to the East. The Knicks are undermanned. It's just basically him and a bunch of road dogs. And he gets you out of Cleveland, and he knocks on the door in Miami. We're talking about a couple of adjustments maybe from Thibodeau. Maybe that series is different too.
All right, I gotta enter it for 1 second. I can tell from the comments that my man Bob Greenberg has signed on. He's defending us from the haters, from what I could see in the comments here. Love you, Bob. You're the best, man. As a matter of fact, me and Bob were talking that we got to get a crew together for a game. We got to meet up for a game one of these days. Go to the Garden. Okay.
Oh, so this guy is who is it? I'm not even going to mention his name. I will figure out a way of blocking you at some point. But that's all.
Bob's going to bed first, man.
Well, everybody has something to say. People want to be famous. If you want to be famous for an idiot, that's fine. I won't give you any idiot play, which is always good for me. I was like, y'all got some strong thumbs when you can get on and start chirping. That's always cool. But it won't bother us. It won't stop the show. It won't change anything in my life. My life is pretty damn good right now. That's what I can tell you. But
how's your birthday?
Oh, wonderful.
Belated.
I'm a food eater. That's what I do. I love food. As long as I got a great meal in my family, I really have no ever complaints about life. So I went to a great restaurant. I'm going to actually shout them out. What is it called? The Matador. El Matador it's called. It's in the Patchogue Medford area. They were lights out. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal. That's out of all the restaurants, and I've eaten at a ton of them. That was probably the first time that I've had a literal. I said it was 5-star, and I couldn't argue about nothing.
What'd you have?
I had a garlic. It was a pan-fried red snapper in a garlic sauce with vegetables and what do they have? Spanish rice and mixed vegetables. It was absolutely dynamite.
Red snapper's nice.
When I tell you what is it like butter? It was like butter. And everybody at the table, no one. I've never been out with a whole group as far as my family, and found that I was in some place where no one had a complaint about food. So, and the service may have been more exceptional than the food. And when I tell you that was hard to say,
nice.
It's almost better than the food. So that place, I've never been to one place, and I've been to either great places, as far as high end, to the styrofoam out the kitchen. And that was by far some of the greatest food and definitely maybe the best service I've had. And I'm telling you, I've been a lot of places to dine out. And I could have went back the next day and been perfectly fine, giving them more of my money.
Very nice.
It's always good. And on my birthday, I spent it in Brooklyn eating, so it wasn't bad either. So I get around, man. I get around. I try to. I'm global. I'm global. I'm global, man. I'm trying to tell you. On the day,
worldwide tie.
Yeah, man. I wanted to start a food blog. That's one of the things I talked about, but it just never. I got too many things in the fire. But that was one of the things because that's how much I really dine out. So, yeah, definitely 51. I'm not mad at the world. It's all good. Shout out to you fools. They want to come in the comments. You only boosting the ratings, so that's damn good too. Knicks for clicks. But thanks, brother. But hey, Knicks are in a great position. I don't think no Knicks fan can actually be pissed about that.
We've got a good measuring stick for tomorrow in Denver at the Garden.
Yeah. We got that Joker dude coming up in here.
He's nice.
Murray. It was funny. This is a little bit off the Knick topic, but I was laughing. Joel Embiid, obviously, we know he had his 70 points, but prior to that, he had mentioned about he said was the best player, which to me is blasphemous for a player currently playing to say this. But he was like, I told Jokic he's the best player. I was like, well, he is. Truth be told, I don't care what kind of points you're producing on an individual game. I mean, it's nice highlights. It's something to talk about. It's a good talking point. But make no mistake about it, when this league looks over, I would be more worried about Jokic than I'd ever be about Embiid because that dude is a special talent.
You can't defend him in the post. You can't stop him in the post. He's just gonna make you look stupid.
He's going to make you definitely look stupid. But, it's so weird about it is that when you think about the dynamic, which I would love to see this be the finals. I don't know if it ever will be. I would love to see Brunson and him beat the finals because you know what? Talk about 2 second-rounders. Mm-hmm. One could restore the Knicks back to prominence, and this guy comes in and is a 2 or 3-time MVP. Could you imagine how great of a story that would be? And they both got phenomenal footwork. I mean, they're just magical, and they don't look the part. Neither guy looks the part. So that would be a nice.
NBA would love that. They would promote that. I think they would push that narrative.
Because I'm like that'd literally David and Goliath because you got the big guy against the small guy, and I would love. I'd like to see Brunson in the finals. I think people would be very shocked at what he would be capable of in those tight games, and hopefully he gets a chance.
He's a closer, like we talked about. The big stage would not be a problem for him. We saw that last year in that. I mean, we saw that with the Dallas-Utah series when he was a member of the Mavericks. Mm-hmm. Big stage, he just rose up and he dropped it on them. When Luka Doncic was out.
Yeah. I do a little house cleaning there. Sorry. When you watch those two, I look at Luka, Brunson, and Jokic. Are 3 of the slowest players I've ever seen, and literally saying they dominate a game. They find the edges to be on, the angles to be on, and just the clutchness. But I would like to see. I don't think Brunson. I think, like I said, he could be a top 10 player. If all said and done. I need to put together a list. Maybe we'll have that as one of the shows about who we believe are the top 10 players in the league. I know Eric would probably have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that would be an interesting. I guarantee we would have very different lists.
I think we definitely would. I know Eric would definitely have a different list than ours, but I definitely think. You got to start talking about Brunson in a different language. I think what has been happening is, as Knicks fans, we've been so soured over the past with the history of the team and the organization, et cetera. And sometimes what that has done is it's kind of shaded us from celebrating our players because we're always worried, well, we'll celebrate too early or not. I think in this particular case, you're looking at Brunson. I think we need to start looking at him in the light of these other players because the Tatum comparison, if that was a blind item and people read it, they would never think that was Jason Tatum next to Brunson. And, it's about the team success, obviously, in this league, but it's something to be talked about. You want to see whether or not he how he stacks up against those guys. And so far he's on his own. So we'll do that. That might be a topic. I don't know if it's gonna be next show. We'll talk to Eric about it, but it's definitely something to look into and start celebrating our players a little bit more and giving them some flowers. Nothing wrong with that. All right. So I think we've had a pretty good show in spite of the haters, which is good. Hey, haters, that's okay. But needless to say, they're going now. I just blocked whoever that was, so that's all. It's funny that he's commenting. I wasn't even reading them, so it didn't matter. I was told that something was going on, so I was like, oh, all right, whatever. Needless to say, what we'll do is we'll try to wrap this up right now. We can talk about where you from. We know you upstate Joe. I want to find you, Joe. Where did they find you, brother?
Okay, you can find me at the X at Upstate Joe AKU for all Knicked Up. Mm-hmm. You could also find me on the fan page. Again, one of my favorite things to do is when somebody tells me my takes suck. So please hop on in. And reach out for anything, man. Check out the fan page if you haven't so far. Ty's doing a great job with game recaps, especially the last one. I think there was a lot of insight in that last game recap. And I mean, just really, it's the kind of insights you're not going to get from reading game recaps in the papers or in any of the major sports media, because there's a lot of context that goes into these that I think the real Knick fans would understand. So come and check him out. He religiously puts them out after every game.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those flowers. I appreciate you always coming on. I'm thankful that you are the member now. That this has been so cool being able to chat with you.
I'm having a blast.
Eric, we love you. Come on back at one point. When you're done getting your Kentucky mules and hanging out in the bluegrass,
having his mint juleps.
Yeah, your mint juleps. You're just too busy down there with Colonel Sanders to mess with us. You like to give that good meme that was it a gift, that gifty or whatever? It was funny, but they'll come down. Hopefully, he doesn't have that little tie. I'll be wearing white, Eric. We don't need that. Don't be walking around the chicken bucket. We can't be having those pictures on and try to promote the page. Much love to you, though, bro. You know that always. You can find me obviously Genius Scribble on the X channel. That doesn't mean provocative channel. That is actually what is Twitter now. You can also obviously
like Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. That's about as provocative as the X channel was when the cable box had the swiggle lines. But needless to say, you can find me also on our All Knicked Up fan page, trying to give you, like I said, some of the good content, some good recaps. So come and engage with us. We're trying to grow out the page. We've asked people if they want to come on to be guests. Even if you're a hater, you can come on and be a guest. You won't last long, but you can come on. It's okay. I hug everybody. It's all love. People have no idea. I'm not bothered by anything. So it's like, if you think you're upsetting me, you're making me laugh more than anything. It just means we're very important when you have bad things to say. It's okay. But needless to say, we want everybody. I mean, you might not like us. That's fine. I don't have a problem with you not liking me either. Won't lose any sleep. I can tell you that damn much. But we do want our fans and people to follow the page. I call you guys my family, the All Knicked Up family, because that's what you are. We're all in the love for the team. Might have our differences, but ultimately we're about winning. And that's what New York Knicks fans want. We want a title before we die. I think that's everybody's motto at some point if you're a Knicks fan, and just to be relevant. And we are relevant right now. We're doing a great job. Shout out to the Knicks, the Knicks team. I mean, whether we don't like Thibodeau or you don't like Randall, you don't like Brunson, what you must like is winning right now, because that's something we're doing, and the most important thing in the end of the end game is winning. And by any means, we'll take it 1 point, 2 point, 20 points. It don't matter. But it's a good time to be a Knicks fan. We just need to make sure that we bubble wrap our team in the hopes that they can maintain the health for the long haul.
Healthy Achilles tendons.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm telling you, you better get that Wolverine pill. Find that Logan pill.
Yeah, adamantium.
Adamantium, man. He need to put something, because that guy's very important. I mean, when we talked tonight, and my stomach turned knowing that I'm taking you. Obviously, you got the medical background there. You hear me now? I'm like, yeah, that drove it home. We need to worry about the 5.
Definitely.
1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. The fifth is a very big concern right now for me. So, but the Knicks are in a good place. Well, let's pray for the health of Hartenstein. We know Mitch may come back at some point in the season. It might be probably late if he does. And, just stay tuned on the trade front. The trade deadline is fastly approaching. It's a couple weeks away. So
we should do a trade deadline show.
I agree with that. That's something that we may need to talk about that. Maybe before the next show. Hopefully nobody gets traded before the next show. If they don't, we need to talk about maybe some of the deals that's out there that have been discussed and what the Knicks need to pounce on to try to improve. Maybe we'll get Craig on because I know he would absolutely.
Oh, that's his jam, man.
That's Mr. Trade Machine Philly. That's all he is. We should give him a shirt that's his trade machine. I'm the tank man, but dang, he's definitely the trade machine. But it would be nice to get some opinions on what moves the Knicks could possibly make to help improve this team around the edges. We know that we've heard from Adrian Wojnarowski that no big move is going to be in play until maybe postseason. But let's talk about some of the things we can help to do improve the Knicks as currently, and hopefully we can make some noise come playoff time. Like I said, right now we're sitting in fifth place, where I think we're half game out of fourth. So the Knicks are looking good and very solid. Love that end of the game play. I rewound it back and watched it several times.
Oh, yeah.
And the transition, Julius.
Block that, the Anunoby block to Hart knocking it back in, to Randall, to Brunson, to Randall, to the jam.
That's all I've ever want to see in New York is that kind of basketball. I know it sounds like, we sound a little pathetic. That's what
Brunson referred to it as a play of the year. Well,
you know what? Let me tell you one thing. I never seen Julius run that fast. So he's like, oh, damn. I'm going to end up on ESPN. It's like he couldn't wait for that to happen. And then put up the goggles like you see me now. And that's all we want in New York. We want that energy. We want it every night. Win, lose, or draw, just to see that. But it was that was some New York basketball. I don't think I've seen that in a long time. Yeah. Where you pull out it and the whole team had a play in which their power, what they're suited to do or what they're great at doing, showed in one transition, block, defense, outlet pass, Brunson, bounce to Julius, he finishes. That's all, folks. That's all there. Well, we're going to wrap it up. All Next Wednesday, come check out the boys once again. We do this thing on a serious note, and we do it for free, so we must really love it. That's for sure. So for me, Ty, and for Upstate Joe, my man, brother in charge there, let's land this plane right in JFK and call it a night. Peace and love to the fam.
Take care, everyone.